Divorce: 10 Signs That Your Partner Will Never Leave You. Written by Rita Chester. Narrated by John H. Feskins. Introduction. Till death do us part. Every couple recites these words as part of their marriage vows. In some religions, they even go as far as to say, for time and all eternity. It may sound cheesy, but marriage is meant to be for keeps, at least until the couple meets in the divorce courts. Couples do not marry thinking that their marriage will not last. Everyone wants a happy ever after, and working towards that goal is no easy feat. According to the CDC NCHS National Vital Statistics System, 40% to 50% of marriages end up in divorce courts. The problem is that, more often than not, couples fail to notice that their marriage is heading towards disaster until the worst happens. It is easier to pretend that everything is all right instead of admitting to yourself that there is a problem. We recently had an exchange student who heard my partner and I argue once in 2 whole weeks. She left a note with the criticism on the fact that we yelled at each other once and mentioned that her parents never argued. How naive! Even if they did not argue, does that mean they have no problems or just that they don't talk about them? When I look at the marriage of my parents and that of my partner's parents, I notice the difference. My parents have yelled and fought a lot more than my parents-in-law, but being part of this in-law family has also taught me that the latter have specific problems, addictions, and silent issues that my parents don't. The number of arguments, or the severity of them, isn't always an indicator for how well the relationship is working. Avoidance and denial are 2 of the major causes why most couples do not notice that their marriage is about to fall apart. Acceptance and open communication is the simple solution here, one that is often overlooked. If couples are willing to admit that there is a problem early on, then it could be mended before things get really bad. Marriage is a partnership and requires both partners to make it work. You cannot have a marriage with just one partner working on it. If you notice that your marriage is experiencing troubles, no matter how small, start working on rekindling your romance. The honeymoon does not have to end. Ignite the fire between you and your partner once more. A study done by Christine Pruill, Ph.D., shows that overall marital quality also affects a person's health in both the negative and positive stages of their marriage. The study concludes that happy couples enjoy better health than those in unhappy marriages. The ratio of marriages against divorce is still higher, which means that the vast majority still do not give up on the dream of having happily ever after. This book does not claim to be the answer to preventing every divorce, but it could give you some guidance on how to keep your marriage healthy, bringing you closer to your dream of happy ever after. Prevention, and not treatment, is the key to cure a malady. Do not wait for the malady to spread when you can prevent it from happening. A marriage made in heaven is possible by taking the first step and reading this book. Chapter 1. Myths about marriage. Most common misconceptions about marriage. There are many misconceptions about marriage or how to stay in a happy marriage. The sad part is that many people do take these myths to be facts. More often than not, even happy couples fall prey to this. In this chapter, let's debunk the top 5 common myths and learn about a few pointers on how to avoid falling victim to them. By the way, here is another book about marriage myths written by Christian Olson. Marriage Myths: 10 Marital Myths and Marriage Mistakes by Christian Olson. Marriage is only based on compatibility. Since childhood, we believed in the notion that somewhere in the universe there is that one perfect person meant to be our other half, the one we call soulmate. Though we do not exactly know if such a person exists, we perceive it to be true and thus base our relationships on this ideal. Even if it was true, don't you think the so-called soulmate is the one you end up with in the end, not the one you erroneously assume should be yours because you are attracted to him or her or you said your marriage vows? There is much more to this than meets the eye, so even if you cherish such a belief, know that we, as human beings, often have a poor sense of judgment and make numerous mistakes, so don't jump to conclusions. When we do find someone who fits our ideal soulmate, we fall victim to the belief that we will find our fairy tale ending with them, no matter what. In doing so, we also overlook red flags. That is, until you wake up one morning to realize that the marriage is not perfect and that you must have married the wrong person. Compatibility is not a guarantee of a happy and lasting marriage. Commitment is the best ground for a solid relationship. It does not matter if you like the same things or never argue. If neither of you commits to the relationship, it is bound to fail. Here is a book about compatibility. Compatibility Test, 200 Questions, by Rita Chester. Couples who are happy never argue. Wrong. I mentioned it in the introduction. Couples can fight a lot and still be happy. Arguments are still a form of communication, especially if done in a rational manner. Conflict is inevitable if you have different temperaments, if your values are different and your interests vary. However, there are couples who enter into marriage with different expectations based on experiences from their own families and past relationships. When one partner fails to meet the other's expectations, coupled with the difference in temperaments and personalities, an argument is bound to ensue. Lack of arguing could indicate lack of communication. When partners avoid arguments, the feeling of trust and intimacy is bottled up inside. Tension builds, making it difficult for both partners to communicate. Happy couples will argue, but they do not purposely hurt each other. They do not bring up past mistakes or points of arguments to hurt or use as a tool to gain the upper hand in the relationship. What happy couples do is resolve the arguments by discussing their feelings openly. They talk reasonably and calmly about the source of their argument, while also trying to find solutions. A happy couple knows how to compromise with each other, adjust, and move on after each argument. My partner will change for me. If my partner loves me, he or she would change for me. Couples often fall victim to this myth as well. Do not make the mistake of trying to change your partner. Although couples need to make adjustments in order for a relationship to flourish, it should not be at the expense of losing their identities. Love should bring out the best in us and should not change who or what we are. In a relationship, each partner's role is to love the other and not try to reform each other. True love means loving someone without reservations or doubts. It means loving all your partner's faults and imperfections. If my partner loves me, he or she can read me. Again, another myth instilled in our mind that's closely associated with the idea of soulmates. No, your partner cannot read your mind, and often does not know what you want until you say something. They can try and predict your reaction or your thoughts, but they will not always be right. Communication is the key. It is vital. Some even consider it the foundation of a good relationship and marriage. You cannot assume that because your partner loves and understands you, the need to express or say what you feel and want no longer exists. You are only building up your resentment by keeping silent, and eventually this resentment will escalate and lead to unnecessary arguments. Your partner, on the other hand, will grow frustrated over not knowing or understanding why you are resentful until the frustration builds itself into anger. Anger can sometimes beget pride, hurting you both in the process. It is not being unfaithful if I am not having an affair. The passion seems to be fading and the sex is not the same as it was. If you buy into that myth, you might eventually believe it to be a fact instead of working on resolving the problem. The Bible taught us that a married person who looks at another lustfully commits adultery by thought if not by deed. The 20th century paved the way for couples to outsource gratification through pornography, cybersex, sex toys, etc. You vent your sexual energy, desires, and fantasies on other things or other people instead of focusing them on your spouse. Monogamy should be physical and mental. Monogamy does not equal a boring sex life. In the course of your relationship, the intensity of the passion between you and your partner might wave. It will not be the same as when you first met or during the early years of your relationship. What develops instead is the thrill of finding a deeper connection with them. Connect with your spouse physically and emotionally instead of on other external factors. Chapter 2. Am I killing my marriage? Destroying your marriage unknowingly. During the early years of married life, couples would need to make a conscious effort to adjust to their new lives. For women, it can be overwhelming to find themselves responsible for the happiness and care of their husbands. On the other hand, men might struggle when trying to balance between being caring towards their wives while being a strong protector of their family. In the process, they unknowingly do things that could potentially destroy their marriage. Money matters. It is a husband's responsibility to provide the basic needs like food and shelter for his family, regardless if you are both working. However, this is a responsibility that can be shared between partners. It could mean working overtime or cutting down on your personal expenses so your daughter could attend ballet classes or sign up for a baseball league. Even if you are working and earning money of your own, you should be careful about your finances. You cannot spend in the same way you used to before you were married. You have to think and budget for two people now. Consider this. If a wife spends money extravagantly, the husband would feel that she does not care about how hard he is working. A man who does not provide well for his family makes a wife think that he does not care about his family. Leaning on each other. Marriage life can be stressful at times, especially if you have children. When the bills, chores, and other stress factors start to pile up, the couple might find themselves increasingly overwhelmed. Most of the time, this can also lead to arguments. Stress causes tensions to run high. The important thing here is to be available to your spouse. Yes, you have your own issues, but you should provide your partner with comfort whenever needed. In doing so, you might find yourself comforted as well. Remember, if neither of you feels that you cannot lean on each other, the relationship becomes strained as you try to keep everything bottled up inside. Knowing your priority. Your spouse should always be your priority. Next to God, your spouse should be the second most important person in your life. They come even before your children. Remember that your spouse is your partner, and you both share the burden of caring for your children. It takes both of you to raise a family. Showing your appreciation need not be grand. Sometimes the simplest things you do for each other makes things sweeter. Little things you do, like preparing breakfast before you both go to work, texting each other at least once a day, offering to pick up the kids from school, etc., can already show that each is important to the other. If your spouse is the least of your priorities, the feeling of neglect will be palpable, and love will eventually fade. Speaking in different languages. Men are from Mars. Often, women speak indirectly about what they want and need. Sometimes they can be quite vague, expecting their husband to figure out what it is that they're trying to express. Case in point, a husband tells his wife that he is going on a business trip, and the wife would ask what business he would be doing there. When in truth, what the wife really wants to know is, are you really going on a business trip, or are you just making an excuse to go away with someone? Another classic example is when a husband asks, "What is wrong?" and his wife replies, "Nothing," which is hard to believe considering the dejected look on her face. This one's for both wives and husbands. Yes, men can be guilty of this too. Do not talk in riddles. Tell your spouse how you feel. If you are upset, tell them so, and give them the reasons why. Again, communication is key. If you cannot speak openly and honestly, then you will run into problems in the long run. To all husbands, your wife needs to feel that she is your love and that she is important. Bringing home a paycheck and taking care of her is not enough proof that you love her. Women need to hear the words or to see the deed. Withholding intimacy and affection. Never use sex as a tool to control your partner. Men crave and need physical affection, and constantly denying them would eventually take its toll. To be wanted and needed by a loving husband is a blessing that both of you can share to each other. There would be times when you would not be in the mood, but giving in would be worth it if it would mean you two can bond. Women also need physical affection in and out of the bedroom. It need not be sex all the time. A hug or a kiss before you go to work, pulling her close when you are sitting beside each other, pulling her onto your lap and kissing her to say thank you, or a simple kiss when you get home to tell her you missed her. These may be small things, but women appreciate them greatly. Sex will never make up for the gestures of physical affection that you show her outside the bedroom. Chapter 3. My spouse is leaving me. You have a good and happy home, kids to dote on, and money is not an issue. In short, your marriage life is bliss. Everything is perfect. Or not. Couples often become complacent with their lives that they fail to see the telltale signs that something is no longer right. They miss the warning signs completely until one day, one of them leaves. Knowing what signs to look out for could save you your marriage. Here are a few examples and what you can do should you ever find yourself in a similar situation. Sign. You feel that you no longer know your spouse. There seems to be a huge distance between the two of you, and you're unable to bridge it. It does not have to be something that either of you did. It could be that you simply drifted apart. What to do? Take time to sit down and talk to each other. Find out what is keeping the two of you apart. Couples drift apart when they do not get the time to bond with each other. Make an effort to spend time together. You could take a vacation or do things as a couple, even if it's something simple like going to the grocery store together or going for a walk. Try to rekindle the passion you both once had. Sign. Your spouse is always annoyed with you. You find yourselves easily irritated by the other. The things you used to be able to tolerate have turned into major stressors for both of you. What to do? Communication plays a big role in this. Talk about what annoys you. You have to be on the same page so that you can understand each other. Miscommunication is often the cause of conflicts. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Be straightforward, but be understanding towards your spouse as well. Sign. Your spouse is always nitpicking on you. Nothing you do seems to be right. You find yourself always shouldering the blame for even the things you did not do or have no control over. What to do? Try to find out if your spouse has a problem. It is possible that your spouse has problems at work. Unknowingly, your spouse could be using you to vent off the bad mood. Again, communication plays a large role. Sign. Your spouse spends more time away from home. They have developed a tendency to spend more time with friends or even at work and less time at home. What to do? Do not wait until your spouse never returns. If your spouse is spending more time with other people, it could be that you are being neglectful. Take action before your spouse leaves you. Start planning activities you can do together, like a weekend barbecue with the kids, jogging together in the morning, asking your spouse for a date in the movies or your favorite restaurant, or giving your spouse a simple body massage, which could lead to other things. Give your spouse a reason to want to stay home. Sign. Your arguments have escalated into full-blown fights. Your little arguments have turned to a constant fighting and shouting match. What to do? When you fight, make sure that one of you is calm. You cannot both be highly strung or the argument will never end. One of you has to stay calm. If you must fight, compromise. Let your spouse vent out and be there to listen with an open mind. Afterwards, when all is calm, you can give your side. If your spouse gets even angrier at your silence, explain that having a shouting match will not solve your argument. Sign. You do not know where your spouse is. Your spouse no longer tells you his or her whereabouts. Your spouse could be gone for days and come back, but not tell you where he or she went. What to do? Tell your spouse that you worry about his safety, and not knowing his or her whereabouts further adds to it. You do not have to know where your spouse is every single minute of the day, but if he or she needs to be gone for several hours or more than a day, you need reassurance that he or she is safe. Sign. You lost your connection with your spouse. You no longer feel that you have a common ground that connects your mind and your heart. What to do? Make the effort to reconnect. Your busy schedules might be straining the connection that you two once had. Take some time out to be alone with each other so that you can rekindle it. Chapter 4. Investing in your relationship. Couples should treat their marriage like a bank account. Based on John Gottman's research on marital stability and relationship analysis, The key to divorce-proofing a relationship is not how you handle your arguments, but how you interact with each other during happy moments. Treat your relationship like a bank account where you invest more positive interactions than negative ones. As Gottman's research showed, happy marriages are not conflict-free. It just simply means the couples have more positive interactions than negative ones. The concept of having a bank account relationship helps to keep the balance in a marriage. Couples invest more interactions that are positive so that when they make withdrawals, when conflicts happen, the bank balance will not end up in the red. This means that the positive outweighs the negative. Try your best to never allow your arguments to overwhelm your relationship. If your relationship bank account is full of positivity, it will shorten your arguments and allow you to get over them faster. Remembering the good things, and let these overshadow the bad things that only happen every now and then. It's easy to get lost in the bad, so always focus more on the good. Accept that you both have imperfections. If you learn to accept that both of you have flaws, you become more understanding of the small mistakes they make, and it enables you to get over your own anger that much faster. Here are 4 ways you can invest in your relationship and deposit more positivity in your relationship bank account. 1. Daily positive interaction. Take time away from your busy schedules and spend at least half an hour to bond with your spouse. You can go jogging together, do the groceries together, or spend time talking about your day before going to bed. No matter what you choose to do, the important thing is to have time together. 2. Do not let doubts consume you. Trust spouse. If he starts coming home late, do not immediately assume that he is having an affair. Ask him if there is a problem at work. Tell him you are asking because you are worried about him working too hard. Do not torture yourself by imagining all sorts of scenarios. Until you know the real reason, you have to give your spouse the benefit of the doubt. 3. Be appreciative. Show appreciation towards every gesture that your spouse makes. If your wife prepares you dinner, give her a hug and say thanks. If your husband offers to pick up the kids from school, reward him by cooking dinner or being extra affectionate towards them. Showing appreciation gives more meaning to little things that couples do for each other. 4. Listen and reach out. Do not thwart your spouse's attempt to reach out to you. If your spouse is trying to make you notice him or her, listen and do not ignore it. Women use hints to get attention, and even if you do not understand it, pay attention. Once you start listening, you will understand what they're trying to get across. On the other hand, men tend to be more physical when they want to be noticed. They get charming and constantly initiate contacts. If this happens, reciprocate his actions. Here are 2 books I recommend, one about listening and one about marriage communication. Listening by Christian Olson. Marriage Communication by Christian Olson. Chapter 5. Seeking Help. When marriages start to crumble, most couples seek help from family and friends. However, friends and family members do more harm than good. Third-party perspective can help them see the problem more objectively. This is why many also turn to marriage counselors. Marriage counseling can be quite daunting. You will feel more vulnerable, but this is part of healing the relationship. There is no right time to do this. If you start feeling as if you cannot handle the issues by yourselves anymore, then look into speaking with a counselor. There is no shame in doing so. Couples who want to try counseling should be in the right mindset before they make their final decision. The top 3 things that couples should keep in mind upon deciding are: the counselor is not going to fix your marriage. Seeing a counselor does not mean your marriage will be fixed after. The counselor is there to guide you. The counselor is your third-party member who can see your marriage objectively and try to mediate any differences. The real work towards fixing your marriage happens outside of the counseling room. Admit your part in the problem. It is easier for couples to put the blame on each other rather than admitting their part in it. Owning up to your responsibility is difficult, and couples tend to be blind when it comes to their faults. Reflect on how you value your marriage and if you are still willing to make the necessary changes. Marriage is a commitment, and without commitment, you will find it difficult to start fixing things. Choosing your counselor. Once a couple is ready to take on the process of marriage counseling, you should work on finding the right one. Meet with 2 or 3 counselors before making your final choice. Do not fall victim to counselors who claim that they can fix your marriage. This does not depend upon them. You and your spouse are the only ones who can really make things work. Always choose a counselor with whom you feel comfortable talking to. Remember that you would be bearing your soul, your fears, including some of the most humiliating incidents in your marriage. If you are not comfortable with the counselor, you would find it difficult to really open up. Make sure that your counselor has no bias towards you as people and towards your marriage. Your counselor's opinion could easily influence your decision, and it may not always have positive results. No matter what you decide to do not wait too long to see a marriage counselor. If your fights have become more frequent and physical, admit that something is wrong and that you need third-party help. Do not wait years before you acknowledge that there is something wrong. How to make counseling work. It takes both people to work on a marriage. Even if the couple is already on the brink of breakup, seeking help from a marriage counselor shows that they still value their marriage and are willing to hold on. However, it takes more than a good counseling for things to change. Couples should also possess some qualities that could help them really turn things around. Intelligence. The couple should be willing to learn new things and be capable of abstract thinking and ideas. They should see through multicolored tinted glasses and not just in shades of gray. Humility. Couples should possess the humility to admit and take their part in the problem. No finger pointing or blaming. They should be willing to accept advice from someone more knowledgeable about relationships. Flexible. Couples should be willing to bend and give in sometimes, to go with the flow. Integrity. Couples should be honest and transparent. They must value their commitment to the relationship and each other above all else. Mature. Couples should be mindful of the things they say and do. They should understand the effects of their action, or lack of it, on others and accept responsibility for it. Dependable. Couples should be able to rely on each other. Be there when one needs help at the same time accepting their need for space. Chapter 6. Secrets to a Successful Marriage. According to John Gottman, the ratio of positivity to maintain the balance of happiness and stability in marriages is 5-1. A couple should have 5 times more positive interactions than negative ones, completely debunking the myth that happy marriages are conflict-free. Here are a few positive things that you can do to keep your marriage successful. 1. Invest in happiness. Celebrate every happy moment in your life. Keep souvenirs of those happy moments so you have something to look back on during sad days. A happy moment can come from anything, like giving flowers to your wife or a special dinner you cooked for your husband. Even simple walks after work can become a happy memory. A good example. Your husband smoking is a source of irritation for you, but you can counter this with the knowledge that he does not smoke in your presence and keeps it away from you. 2. Hang in there. When things get tough, it is important that you hang in there with your spouse. Remember your vows, for better or for worse. You have to show your spouse that you can be relied on when the going gets hard. Giving up should never be an option. In time, you will learn to find ways to overcome the challenges that come with being married. Your husband lost his job, and it is taking him longer than you expected to find another job. Meanwhile, there are bills you need to pay, kids going to school, groceries to buy, paying for the daycare, etc. You have no other source of income, and this is causing a strain in your relationship. The fights are becoming constant. These are trying times, but you cannot give up. Challenges are constant in any relationship, and you cannot let a small hurdle break you apart. Be there for your spouse. Give support and encouragement. Be the source of strength so that you can both overcome the challenge. 3. Approach problems from various angles. If you find yourselves facing a blank wall or hitting a slump in trying to find a solution for a problem, do not fight about it. Arguing will get you nowhere. Instead, try to look at the problem from a different angle or use a different approach. 4. Maintain the excitement. This is something that couples should never forget. Dating is not exclusive to single people. It does not have to be as grand as when you are both single. A candlelit dinner in a fine dining restaurant, watching a movie together, or even having a cup of coffee during the mornings can help with this. The important thing is you are doing things together as a couple. Some couples use role-playing games to keep their marriage exciting. They create scenarios they could play out. The scenario would involve neither of the couple knowing what the other is planning. The excitement builds up for both of them, making them feel like they did when they first met. The scenario usually ends up in a romantic and sensual activity that leaves both sizzling. The giddy feeling created by the unknown gives them continuous excitement in their relationship. 5. Do not try to change your spouse. Do not buy into the illusion that your spouse loves you so they will change for you. You did not marry your spouse to reform him or her. Accept the fact that there are things or habits of your spouse that you cannot change. Instead, find a workaround or a compromise that would be acceptable for both of you. Your husband is a habitual smoker, and though you loathe the smell of tobacco, it is not something that he could change or you could change overnight. Do not force him to quit smoking. Instead, let your love change him. Give him reminders about what smoking can do to his health. Tell him that you accept the fact that he smokes a lot, but he should mind his health. Make a compromise. If he must smoke, ask him to do it outside of the house and not around you or the kids. 6. Remember that marriage is a commitment, not a deed. Couples marry because of love, but more than the love, marriage should be about commitment. When you married your spouse, you made a commitment not just to God, but also to each other. You did not get married with the notion that after several years you will break up. Even if your marriage has all the ingredients to become successful, without commitment, it will fail. 7. Sex plays a big part. Over the course of your marriage, the intensity of the fire between couples lessen, but they won't necessarily die. Most of the time, couples get caught up dealing with the various changes and challenges in their married life, which leaves them with little to no time for togetherness. No matter how busy you both are, make it a point to spend a few minutes to talk to each other. Constant physical affection, like hugs and kisses, helps keep the intensity of your feelings. 8. Honesty is the best policy. Be honest and open about your feelings towards each other. If you feel that your spouse is being mean or abusive to you, bring it up for discussion. If you feel your spouse is neglecting you, be honest about your feelings, but use words that would not demean him or her. A typical homemaker would prepare the dinner, do household chores, get the groceries, take care of the kids, do the laundry, etc. The husband expects this from his wife that too often he neglects to show appreciation. The wife would start to feel disgruntled, thinking that her husband is taking her for granted. She starts to be moody and would often pick a fight with her husband. The husband, not realizing that his wife is feeling neglected, would take it as an offense, and without realizing it, they are having a full-blown argument. If the wife were more straightforward in asking her husband to help her out by doing some of the chores like doing the groceries, the fight would not start. If the husband was more sensitive of his wife's feelings and showed his appreciation, she would not feel so disgruntled. Chapter 8. Is a divorce-proof marriage possible? Even the most successful marriage can sometimes end in divorce, so it makes us really wonder if there is such a thing as a divorce-proof marriage. Every success requires hard work, and marriage is no exception. There are no guarantees, but there are ways of making things work. If two people love each other deeply and are willing to sacrifice for the other, then yes, a divorce-proof marriage is possible. Listed here are some tips that would most likely make your marriage divorce-proof. Do not wait until after the wedding to discuss important issues. Do not be afraid to discuss how many children you both want to have and when to have them. It is also best to discuss issues like handling of finances, religion, and how you see your future before the wedding to avoid surprises later on. The couple should agree on these things early on, otherwise it could become a source of argument for them after the wedding bliss has worn off. You want a marriage, not a wedding. For most couples, after years of dating each other, the next logical step is to have a wedding. Preparing for your dream wedding could make you lose sight of why you want one, to start a lifelong relationship with the person you love. Set boundaries. Never allow the in-laws to have a say in your marriage. They can give advice or comment on the state of your house, but never about your marriage. In-laws are often the source of marital conflicts, and allowing them free rein on your marriage could ruin the harmonious relationship with your spouse. Make your spouse your priority. After God, your spouse should be your next priority. Without your spouse, you have no marriage, and without marriage, you would have no children. You can love your family equally, but when the time comes that your children move out, who are you left with for the rest of your life? Your spouse. Maintain a common interest. While there is truth that differences could help add spice to your marriage, it is also important to maintain a common interest with your spouse. If there is nothing that both of you could easily agree on, then your marriage is doomed to fail. Always find common ground, or create one. Share parenting duties. Parenting duties should not be the wife's sole duty. Husbands should share an equal burden in raising the kids. Women feel more supported if their husbands share parenting duties. Learn from past mistakes. Do not allow past mistakes to be the obstacle in your marriage. Use past mistakes as a lesson to guide you. If you came from a broken family, do not wallow in the thought that your marriage will turn out the same way. Learn from it so you can avoid history from repeating itself. Give each other space, but not too much space. When things get tough and your wife feels like screaming, let her. Give her time to mull things over and let out some steam. Once she has cooled off, talk to her and find out what happened. Do not give blame or say, "I told you so," because it will only bring back the anger. Just tell her you are ready to listen when she is ready to talk. Watch your words. Anger could drive a person to say hurtful things that they would regret saying later on. Wounds can heal, but the scar left behind remains forever. The same is true when it comes to words. Once spoken, you can never take them back. If you have an argument with your spouse, do not confront each other in anger. Walk away and try to cool off. Anger is one of the most destructive reasons why relationships sometimes do not work. Anger could make you do many things that you would not normally do when calm. When you are angry, keep in mind to avoid doing things that could potentially hurt your spouse. Name-calling, revenge or getting even with your spouse, setting the kids up against your spouse, airing dirty laundry. Chapter 9. Make Love Last. Gottman's research on relationship analysis revealed that arguments or fights do not destroy marriages, but rather it is how couples deal with them that does. In Gottman's book, What Makes Love Last? How to Build Trust and Avoid Betrayal, he explained 5 different points that allow him to predict with high accuracy if a marriage will last or not. 1. Fondness and admiration. Couples give spontaneous compliments to each other. Their life together is full of fondness and admiration. The respect is clearly shown, but it is coupled with affection. 2. Me-ness versus we-ness. Couples cannot resolve conflicts because they focus on blaming each other rather than admitting their fault in it. It is always I and never we. It takes 2 to tango, just as it takes 2 to start a fight. 3. Express pride in your struggles. Couples tend to focus on their fights rather than their struggle to overcome the challenge. Happy couples show pride in their struggles to fight challenges together, emphasizing the growth of mutual trust and strength in their commitment to each other. Surviving difficult times together gives a deeper meaning to their relationship as a couple. 4. Keeping their connection. A couple who works hard at trying to keep their connection is more likely to have a lasting marriage. This connection enables them to face any difficulties along their path. Knowing that their partner is there for them makes it easier to face daily challenges. 5. Being satisfied. A couple who often argue would usually express disappointment that their relationship turned out to be something they did not expect. They have unrealistic expectations of the relationship, and therefore they find no satisfaction. The disappointment breeds discontent that leads to arguments. You want your spouse to change, so you try your best to change him or her. And when they refuse, you express disappointment over it. Do not try to change your spouse. Accept him or her as is. Marriage is a partnership, and how each spouse reacts or interacts will determine if their relationship will end in the divorce court or not. Here are 4 things that couples should avoid doing while in a relationship. Criticizing your spouse is not good because it can easily become too personal. You can complain about things that irritate you about your spouse, but once you make a criticism, it is like saying that your spouse is not a good person. Name-calling can also offend. Name-calling conveys disgust, which is not healthy for the relationship. Words are powerful weapons and could easily poison trust between a married couple. Even if you don't mean the words, the scars it might create is real for the other person. Defensiveness. This is equivalent to saying it is your spouse's fault and not yours. Admit your part in the problem. When an argument starts, it is never just one person's fault. Disengaging. This is the deadliest of all. Removing yourself emotionally from the relationship. You simply ignore everything and turn your back on the relationship. This is one sure way to kill even the healthiest marriage. Chapter 10. 10 Sure Signs that your spouse is for keeps. There are many signs that can tell you if your spouse is completely invested in the relationship, just as much as you are. Here are some of the things you should pay more attention to. 1. Your spouse believes that marriage is not just a vow, but also a commitment. Your spouse should be fully committed to your marriage. It is more than the vows you both recited during the wedding. Commitment means staying with each other and persevering in the face of adversity. 2. Your spouse appreciates everything you do, whether it be big or small. Your spouse shows how much he or she values you. A hug or a kiss for something as simple as a cup of coffee or a bunch of roses for preparing dinner, just to show appreciation. 3. Your spouse owns up to his or her mistakes. Your spouse is not afraid to admit their mistakes. He or she readily admits being wrong and apologizes for it. There is no finger-pointing and blaming. 4. Your spouse is proud of your achievements. He or she feels secure about your career and your relationship. Insecurity is one of the source of arguments of most couples. Insecurity breeds jealousy that could lead sometimes to infidelity. 5. He or she keeps the connection alive between the two of you. Even apart, your spouse stays connected with you by sending text messages or a short call. Your spouse does this not out of insecurity, but because of love. Being apart from you makes him or her feel incomplete. 6. Your spouse does not keep secrets. When your spouse is fully committed to you, he or she will not keep important things hidden from you. His or her trust in you is full and given without reservation. He will tell you things that he never told anyone else. 7. Your spouse accepts you exactly as you are. He or she will not try to change you and accepts your faults and imperfections. You will discover things about your spouse that were not visible during courtship. A classic example could be something simple, like the way he or she leave a trail of clothes while getting dressed. This is a small thing, and if you deal with it using anger, there's a potential that you might damage your harmonious home. 8. He or she makes you top priority. You come first before the children, friends, and their own family. You are always part of his or her plans and will do everything to make you happy. Your spouse will not make decisions without consulting you first. 9. Sex is not their main motivation for being with you. There would be times that you would feel tired and you wouldn't be in the mood for it. Instead of getting frustrated over the lack of intimacy, your spouse understands it. It will not be a cause of an argument because he or she respects your feelings. 10. Your spouse talks about your future and not just their own personal future. He speaks of we instead of I. You are always included in his plans for the future, telling you that you would be together long enough to ensure that future.